the Madman! Welcome to the mini set. The adventurers have finally gotten strong enough to take on epic raid boss, that is Onyxia. So let's get started with the card that perhaps ties this all together. Onyxian Warder, 5 mana 3/6. Oh my god, my pizza is done. Hold on, be right back. It's Onyxian Warder, a neutral, 5 mana 3/6 dragon. Battle cry, if you're holding a dragon, summon 2/2/1 whelps with rush. This is a direct comparison to Blackwing Corruptor, and it's much stronger than Blackwing Corruptor, and it's a dragon. Way back in the day, I certainly would have loved to have Onyxian Warder. Now, I understand, times have changed, decks are stronger, but just remember this, Onyxian Warder is a dragon, and there are some pretty strong dragons coming up. So if there's more cards that say if you're holding a dragon, do something cool, you might run the Onyxian Warder plus the class-specific dragon that's really strong, plus new dragon, unknown, new dragon synergy card. I could see it. Onyxian Warder could fit into a control plan where you're using the whelps to kill the small token cards that aggro decks might put out. It could fit into a mid-range plan because that is 7-8 in stats, with some of the stats being fast stats with rush. So, I mean, good stats for the cost. Whether or not this card is good really depends on what else is coming out, and whether or not there's good dragons coming out, which I would expect there to be. We've got Mage with Deep Breath, 5 mana fire spell, deal 1 damage to a minion and its neighbors. Obviously a control mage card, potential in Big Spell Mage, potential in Quest Mage, potential in Mozaki Mage, but against all of those, you have to consider why not just run Fire Sale. Slightly better against metas where there are exactly like 2 or 3 big minions, and that's a really specific thing to look for when you can just cycle your Fire Sale away if the condition isn't met, and 3 damage is already a pretty significant amount, and Quest Mage was always looking to, they didn't need more fire spells. By the way, fun little side note, Deep Breath is one of the scariest abilities of Onyxia way back in the day. I used to raid 40-man Onyxia in vanilla World of Warcraft, and this usually killed the party. Light Maul Nether Drake, the Priest 4 mana 4/4 dragon. Now this is the type of card I'm talking about when I'm saying maybe some decks will run a core of dragons with a really good dragon such as Light Maul Nether Drake, and then potentially need to throw in another dragon to activate their other card that, if you're holding a dragon, does cool stuff. Battle Cry, if you're holding a Holy and a Shadow spell, deal 3 damage to all their minions. It's a 4 mana 4/4 dragon, and that is clearly a really strong dragon. It's like Dustbreaker, except it's a 4/4 instead of a 3/3. Now yes, holding both a Holy and a Shadow spell is harder, but you could run this in a non-dragon deck as well, where you just actually have the Holy and a Shadow spell, and you currently already have the perfect card to go with it. Spirit Guide is the 5 mana card that is a taunt, and Death Rattle, draw a Holy spell and a Shadow spell. Control priests currently do run both Holy spells and Shadow spells, especially in the Quest Priest variant, and Nether Drake fits in the 4 spot for the Quest Priest. You might fill in a 5 spot with Onyxian Warder, and maybe you'll fill in a higher spot with a card that says if you're holding a dragon, do awesome stuff. So possibilities, even if the dragon thing doesn't work out. Light Maul Nether Drake looks like an excellent combination in Control Priest decks in combination with Spirit Guide. This card might push Priest to be the ultimate in anti-aggroness. Like, imagine you're up against these early aggressive decks, and they're spamming the board with these 3 health minions. Sometimes you're just gonna completely blow out your aggro opponent with it. It's delightful. Don't stand in the fire! You got the Shaman 5 mana fire spell. Deal 10 damage randomly split among all enemy minions, overload 1. Compared to Volcano, this card does 5 fewer damage, but it's all among enemy minions. It's actually a lot like Full-Blown Evil, with you must cast it twice. It's an anti-aggro card. Could be used in Quest Shaman because it has Overload. Control Shaman decks, though Control Shaman tends to lean more towards the freezing package. It could be played in the Bolner OTK Shaman deck. This card at 5 does corrupt both of the cards that are used in that OTK deck. Ultimately, it's got potential, and it looks better and better the more aggro decks you face. But if you don't face a lot of aggro decks, then it's probably not so good. I had to look into the meta a little bit as for whether or not these cards would be good. What I found is that the meta is actually really wide open, so good cards tend to be good, and cards that target certain archetypes may or may not be good, depending on whether or not those decks are in popularity. So, Don't Stand in the Fire strikes me as a card that will mostly not be played most of the time, but if there ever were a meta where there was a lot of aggro out there, I could see it. Warlock has Spawn of Deathwing, 5 mana 6/6 dragon. Battlecry, destroy a random enemy minion, discard a random card. So obviously, if the random card you're discarding is Hand of Gul'dan, that's a 5 mana 6/6, destroy a random enemy minion. Draw 2 cards, because you're losing the Hand of Gul'dan and you're replacing it with 3 cards. And obviously that's quite good. Now, the exact circumstances where you're going to be left with a Hand of Gul'dan in your hand while you have exactly Spawn of Deathwing, that's not exactly going to happen that often. But the point is, if they're printing a card such as Spawn of Deathwing, possibly in the other 2 Warlock cards, because in these mini adventures, each class gets 3 cards, there could be a Zoo card, there could be a discard loving card. So Spawn of Deathwing probably doesn't fit into the current decks because it is a good card for high end of Zoo, which is running Hand of Gul'dan perhaps. So has potential depending on whether or not you see more Zoo support or discard support. By itself, probably not going to see play. Interesting note, this card does say discard a random card. You haven't seen that kind of templating before. It's always been discard a card. I wonder if this means that in the future, discard a card might be a card you select. Maybe the technology will be there in the future where you will actually get to select the card you discard. For Warrior, you've got Onyxia Drake, a 4 mana 4/5 dragon with taunt. So, you already got the premium stats. Battlecry, deal damage equal to your armor to an enemy minion. Wow, it's a premium stat minion that also comes with a free Shield Slam. The free Shield Slam is worth theoretically 3 mana at the high end, probably closer to like 2 or 2.5, but with the bundling, maybe if you really pushed it to be 3. So I would say you could think of this as a 2 mana 4/5 taunt in terms of the stats that you distribute towards Onyxia Drake and the stats that you distribute towards drawing and playing a Shield Slam. It's a good card. Could cause Control Warriors to have a Dragon Core, especially if there's a card that benefits you from holding dragons in your hand, such as Onyxian Warder. But perhaps past Onyxian Warder, there's another dragon that says if you're holding a dragon, do cool stuff. Dragon Warrior had been a archetype in the past, and there were numerous variations of Dragon Warrior. This looks like it will gear towards more the Control Warrior. And Control Warrior is actually an archetype that's playable now, so not hard to see that potentially with the strength of a card like Onyxia Drake, if there's another card that says if you're holding a dragon, do cool stuff, that you would want to fit in more dragons, and you'd put in the Onyxia Drake into most Control Warriors, you'd perhaps think about putting Onyxian Warder in, and yeah, good card. And finally, we have Whelp Bonker, 3 mana 1/5, Frenzy and Honorable Kill, draw a card. Just because you may not have seen Frenzy for that often, reminder, Frenzy only activates once, so it's no Acolyte of Pain. And has anyone actually ever gotten an Honorable Kill in Standard Hearthstone? I don't know. But Honorable Kill has not really been much of a mechanic. But it has a lot of stats, okay? It's a 3 mana 1/5. You may not even need an activator for it, because if you play this on turn 3, it is really hard to one-shot the Whelp Bonker. So the Frenzy goes off and you draw a card. And 3 mana 1/5 draw a card is pretty good. The times where it's bad is if you don't draw a card with it. So you probably do want to run this in a deck with activators, because late game, if you play a 3-mana 1/5, they may just kill it in one shot with a minion, and then that's not very good. Don't really count on getting the honorable kill, unless you're thinking about playing this in something such as Buff Paladin, perhaps. It is a card that gets stronger with buffs, because more likely that it frenzies, more likely that it honorable kills. So there you have it! That's the initial look for Onyxia's Lair. Kibler is going to be revealing a card, and he says he's extremely excited to reveal perhaps the coolest card ever. It'll probably be a dragon, as the Dragon Master. Could be a game changer. But yeah, Onyxia's Lair. Looking forward to more of the Onyxia's Lair cards.